Ladies and gentlemen, this is the 12th and final round.
Right hand, Golovkin steps in and down he goes again. Unbelievable. Mayweather makes a pay. What a rookie mistake. A sensational left hook by De La Hoya.
It's fact. I'm the best. You know what I mean? Sometimes I don't want to believe it myself, but it's the truth. I'm the best. I'm going to show you how great I am.
From Southern California, this is the Last Round Podcast.
Welcome back to episode 202 of the Last Round Podcast. Over the 200 mark in weekly episodes. I think we're close to actually maybe 300 in terms of the total episodes we've done, if you include the bonus and the on-location live episodes that we've done. I think we're pretty close to 300 overall, but we got to look at the list. But once again, we appreciate you guys, whether you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, wherever you're at, however you're listening. We appreciate it. All right. Jumping right back into it. Fight reviews this past Saturday, the 3rd of December, from the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Did I say that right? I feel like I butchered it last week. How do you say it?
Tottenham.
That's what I was trying to say. Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London on paper. Was this a Sky Sports pay-per-view? Or was this this was a BT Sport?
It was BT Sport pay-per-view.
BT Sport, right? Because Fury, Queensberry, they're all BT Sport.
£26.99, which is highly
pounds
priced for a UK.
£26.99, right?
Yep.
Is the pound stronger than the American dollar right now?
Only just. I think last time I checked, it's like about 1.2. So you get $1.20 for every pound, which is pretty low. After 5-10 years ago, it used to be like double that.
That's true. That is true. And then it was on ESPN Plus in the USA, but I don't think it was pay-per-view over here. I think it was just on regular Plus, right?
Yep. Just your usual like $9.99 subscription.
Right. Tyson Fury gets the 10th round TKO over Fury-Chisora and retains his WBC heavyweight championship title. This was their 4th matchup, right? Or was it third? Third. So obviously Chisora is 0 for 3. I don't think there was a lot of people, including us, that were clamoring for this third fight. But if you look at it from the perspective that Fury just needed to, he wanted to fight, he needed to stay active. The AJ fight didn't work out. I mean, I don't think it was realistic from the beginning that the AJ fight was going to happen this month. They want, that's something that they want to build like months in advance, with those two personalities who can both do media together and, especially AJ over there in the UK and all that. But was this what you expected? I expected Chisora to go down earlier. I'm surprised he's right until 10th round, but overall, Fury kind of did what he wanted with him the entire fight.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think everyone kind of guessed it beforehand. He'd beaten him, twice before. Tyson Fury is probably significantly better than he was back then when he beat him the first 2 times. I think it was either the 2nd or the 3rd round where he backed Chisora up, had him against the ropes. Chisora looked a little bit out on his feet, and you could see Tyson kind of like took a step back, kind of like looked at him, smiled at him a little bit, and then the round pretty much ended, and then he gave him a little wink. And it was honestly kind of like, like when Mayweather fought McGregor, and Mayweather just thought, let's do a few rounds for the fans. And then I think that might have been the 10th round as well, where he just in the Conor McGregor fight, where he decided to take him out. And that's kind of what it was from Fury. Once you got to like round 7 or 8, I think we were all really just waiting for, either the referee or, Don Charles in Chisora's corner just to stop the beatdown, really, because Chisora was never really in it, and Tyson's that good that I never really worried about Tyson taking one of those flush shots from over the top, that big right hand that, Chisora always swings with, because it's kind of telegraphed. Chisora's kind of slow, and Tyson's that good that, I think he could, read those all day. I just kind of feel sorry for the people that paid for it. $26.99. It wasn't really a stacked card just before Christmas.
How was the attendance?
I think it was 60,000, but from what I could see from like friends and people that I follow and stuff like that in the boxing world on Facebook and Instagram, it seemed like a lot of the tickets were kind of like given away, or people that had bought them to resell them were actually selling them for less than face value.
Hmm.
And they were kind of just handed out because it was got to the point. I think they realized that it wasn't going to sell like it did, just before Christmas, especially like living in California, and the UK is having a bit of an economic crisis as well. So I don't think people really want to be spending money on tickets or a pay-per-view literally 3 weeks before Christmas. So
That's true. That's true. Yeah, that's a good point.
I do I posted this on the Twitter. I do worry that we just paid, well, we didn't, but the UK just paid $26.99 for this pay-per-view. I'm assuming the Tyson Fury Usyk fight is going to be probably a record. I reckon it's going to be $29.99.
What's the most expensive pay-per-view boxing fight in the UK in history?
Pay-per-view with this one, and I think that was the same price, I believe, for the AJ fight. I think $26.99 was the AJ price as well. So I think the Fury Usyk, I think, will go to $29.99 or around that kind of price point, and that would be a new record.
Do you think that, sticking with the whole price points thing, obviously we know how the United States is, but it's like anything, supply and demand, or you need to make more money. Like a lot of the pay-per-views in the United States now are like at $80 minimum. $79.99, the majority of them, regardless, even if the names on the card aren't really, worth it. The UK is obviously seemingly going in that direction with these pay-per-views, $26.99, $29.99. Do you think, I don't even want to say do you think, but how long do we wait before the UK pricing catches up? Do I want to say catches up, or do I want to say gets to the similar realm that the United States pricing is at? What, maybe $60, $70, or 70 pounds? I think it's going to be a while, but I mean, it's slowly creeping up as well, right?
Yeah, I would say I think just due to the inflation and different economies, I would say we'd maybe get to like half that, like around like the 30 to 40 pounds would be expensive in my view. But I think either the Tyson Fury Usyk fight, or when we eventually get Tyson Fury Anthony Joshua, I think that's when it'll creep up closer to like $29.99. I feel, just due to the amount of money I'm sure Fury's going to want, the amount of money Anthony Joshua's going to want. I think we'll see. Yeah, it slowly seems to be increasing. After it seems that now, like every 6 months, or every time we get a heavyweight fight, it's creeping up like a pound, 2 pounds, 3 pounds, and then in this age, in this day where we're all kind of penny pinching, it's not something that I think we really need, especially for a fight like Tyson Fury-Chisora, which was essentially an exhibition or a sparring contest. At the end of the day, we knew who really wants to pay for a fight where we already know the outcome,
right?
And we were all right. It wasn't close.
Doesn't that happen a lot more in boxing than we think? I mean, we've seen it happen before, and it's not. It is going to happen again.
No, yeah, you're right. It does happen a lot, but at least that was probably a 95% chance Tyson Fury was going to win that, unless he just got randomly caught by one of Chisora's wild punches. I didn't think it was ever really in doubt. So let's hope that it didn't do so well, so that we don't see that sort of thing happen again. As mean as it sounds, like hopefully, Frank Warren kind of like lost a lot of money on that, and he's like, what, I'm not gonna try to fool the fans again by putting something like that on there.
What's the highest grossing pay-per-view, or at least in terms of buys, in UK history?
Fuck, I should really know that, shouldn't I?
Well, off the top of your head,
it used to be AJ Klitschko, and I'm not too sure if AJ and Ruiz 2 beat that off the top of my head. And I'm sorry to our British listeners.
What was AJ Klitschko?
Fuck, I think it was like 1 point. Because it was 1.5 maybe.
So it was just over $1 million.
I think so.
Does Fury Joshua eclipse that?
Yeah, I would say so. If it's priced accordingly and stuff like that, I think
1.5? Or is that too much?
So I just found it. I just Googled it. So yeah, AJ Ruiz 2 was 1.54 million. So I was
Oh man.
then supposedly according to this, AJ Klitschko was 1.53. So 100.
Well, they were both about the same.
Yeah, so about 1.5 for both of them. So
does Fury Joshua do 2?
I think so. Yeah, I think it would. I think it would beat that, and I think it would be closer to 2. But I mean, with all the different ways of pirating things now,
right. But I mean, what's the total population of the entire UK?
I think it's 70 million around there.
70?
Yeah.
So I mean 1.5 million out of 70 million, if you look at it like that, that's very, very good.
Yeah, you're looking at like close to what?
That's a lot.
1.5% or something like that.
That's a lot. That's a big chunk. I mean, we have close to 400 million people in the United States. I know they offer the pay-per-view in other countries as well, but if you just look at the United States, and you got some of these fighters doing 150,000, 100,000, 300,000, 275,000 reportedly. I mean, obviously these numbers are floated. We don't really know, but it's crazy to compare and contrast like that. But what does this one do then? If you had to guess, Fury-Chisora 3, what are we looking at?
Low.
Well, what's low? What do you think?
I'd be surprised at that price point if it did 300,000.
That still seems like a lot, but with that price point, that's low.
Because if you put it into comparison, Wilder Fury did the 700,000, right? Around there. At $26.99 in the UK, Christmas, when the tickets were pretty much being given away, if rumors are true, I think you're looking at like 200 to 300,000 or something like that. And the amount of pirating, how easy it is to pirate all of these things now. You can just go on Twitter on a fight day, and you can find a stream or somebody selling like the IPTV services that you can pay for. It's so easy to do it now.
Yeah, there's a lot of options out there, and and it keeps growing too. So I mean, but look at it this way: like, how long would you say that pirating, pay-per-view events in general, sporting events, has been very readily available in a sense where it's a lot easier to find? It's been more common. How long would you say?
I mean, I remember it like as a teenager, you go to like your friends' houses and they used to have like the little boxes,
right,
with the cards, the little
cards.
Yeah.
But like, I'm talking about with the internet age, the black box, as they call it, the black box back in the day. That was out there. It was common. I knew people who had it, but obviously now it's like tenfold because everybody has access to the internet. So how long, 5 years, 10 years? How long would you say that pirating has really been like a common occurrence with these pay-per-view sporting events?
You're talking like super easy to get a stream?
Yeah. Where it's really made an impact on the buy rate. Yeah,
I would say you're correct in that. I would say the last probably like 5 to 10 years, but definitely over the last like 5, 6, 7 years, it's super easy. You can just go on, like I said, go on to Twitter, and how many people do we see in the boxing world that we follow that will sometimes, even Shakur Stevenson, remember for the Clarissa
Look at Errol Spence said this. Errol Spence said that him and Crawford said that Spence, I forgot if it was vice versa or not, but I think Crawford said this. Errol Spence told him that he has a Fire Stick.
Yeah.
He has an Amazon Fire Stick, and he doesn't even order the pay-per-views because he has he hacks it.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you got millionaires like these guys who are hacking it, what is that going to tell the people like us? Like, oh, okay, well, why are we going to order it then? If you're hacking these, what makes it? Why should we order it?
Right.
Like, obviously you want to support, but it's like when you got some of the best fighters in the world saying that they hack it and they're millionaires, it's like, well, maybe they don't want their financial information to show up on an ESPN Top Rank card or something like that. Like, oh, Errol Spence Jr., Dallas, Texas, or wherever he's from, South Texas somewhere, and he pops up on the financial statement, and then Top Rank's like, oh, well, Spence has ordered a bunch of our pay-per-views, but I just this whole pay-per-view game, $26.99. I mean, to us in the United States, that's cheap. We would love $26.99, but I mean, think about it. If you put on, I don't know, if you put on, like, if you priced Spence Crawford at like $29.99, how many buys would it do?
Spence Crawford at $29.99.
In the United States.
Oh, I think that would be close to breaking a mil, between 700,000 to a mil at that price point.
I wonder how much. Well, I'm not going to calculate it right now, but I mean, I get it. You weigh the pros and cons of the price point. They're like, oh, we'd rather put it at $80 or something, $85, and sell 200,000 buys, or at least try to sell 200,000 buys and make $80 off of each of those, instead of selling it at $30 and doing 800 or 900,000 buys. It's going to be about the same or whatever. So that's a hard business to be in, man. For boxing, that's a hard business.
Yeah, they do it, don't they? They try to find that sweet spot, I guess, where they're maximizing the cost to the amount of people that are watching. Which sucks for us. Yeah. The thing I've always found funny is $80 for a pay-per-view in California is completely different to $80 for a pay-per-view in, say, Texas or South Carolina.
Right.
Because of the amount of money that you earn in California compared to some of these other states.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah. I don't know. Pay-per-view market. We'll touch on it obviously a little later again. But moving on, in the co-feature, Daniel Dubois gets the third round TKO over Kevin Lerena, and this was for the WBA, I believe, regular heavyweight title. This was a very, very interesting matchup, and I've been wanting to get your take on this since it happened. But Dubois was obviously, people that were aware of the matchup. He was knocked down multiple times in the first round, and then he comes back and stops Lerena in the third round, and it's like, holy shit, like, what are we looking at with Dubois here? Like, did the Joyce fight really take a lot out of him? Is it going to affect him long term? Like, what do we? Or is Lerena just one of those sneaky guys under the radar that just, hey man, he's actually going to turn out to be something pretty decent and get some decent fights over his career? What do you think?
It's a strange one. It sounded like, from what I heard today, pardon me, that Dubois obviously got caught, kind of went down, and I think that the way he went down, or the way that his leg went back, it's caused him to have some type of knee injury. I believe it may be a ligament, so he may be out for quite some time. Oof. And then the second and third ones, like, he was kind of trying to defend himself, but there wasn't really punches that sent him down. He took like more of a knee, didn't he?
Because
he kind of like needed a break, and it seems to be it was some type of ligament in his knee. So I think just trying to move was becoming very hard for him. So I think he just had to take a knee to try to take a rest and try to recuperate, and he managed to make it out of the first round. I thought the referee was probably was close to stopping it, even though that Dubois was obviously the A side and the home fighter. I would imagine it must have been going through his mind, the fact that he kept taking a knee and kept going down. I thought the stoppage was a little bit quick when he had Lerena, against the ropes, but at the same time, Lerena, from what I can remember when I watched the replay today, didn't seem to complain, and some of those hooks and uppercuts that pardon me, that were landing on Lerena from Dubois looked pretty heavy, and I'm sure maybe Lerena was kind of like, like, fuck this, like, I'm kind of glad to get out of there, because Dubois had come back, and in the third round he turned into like a different beast somehow, some way. It looked like his knee had kind of was a little bit better, and he probably knew. I think in third round,
Dubois just went for it, and he gassed himself out until he caught him.
I was just about to say that. I think he thought, you know what, I'm going to empty the tank.
Yeah, if Lorena survived that, it could have been a different outcome for Dubois. He's just gassed out, and he's like, and he gets stopped. But I think he went for it, and he just like, I'm going to empty the tank because, you know, my legs or my whatever it is, my foot or my leg is giving out. I'm just going to go for it, and it worked, and he won the fight.
But Lorena looks. I don't think he looked too bad as a heavyweight.
Somebody
that had moved up. I mean, he's put a lot of size on, and obviously, you know, he's a little bit small, but I'm sure he just went in there. You know, heavyweight division, you get those heavyweight checks, don't you? So I'm sure he just decided, like, towards the end of my career.
Oh yeah, Dubois on a Fury card, I would take it too.
I'm sure he just decided just to bulk up to get some of those bigger paydays.
Yeah. No, big time. But yeah, that was a very. I mean, you talk about memorable fight of the weekend. Well, I think in terms of drama, that was probably the most dramatic fight of the weekend. I mean, Dubois, obviously the heavy favorite going in. You know, he has one loss, but somebody of the likes of Joe Joyce. But then he gets dropped multiple times in the first round. You're like, oh my God, he's about to lose. You know, to a guy where, you know, he was the heavy favorite. Then he comes back 2 rounds later and stops him. So I was like, what the hell? So, but I mean, what do we see? You think Dubois? Because obviously Frank Warren is trying to maneuver Dubois to get a title shot or to get a big matchup against Fury. He wants to match them up both. But, you know, the Joe Joyce fight slowed that down a lot. Even though he won this fight, they're still going to try to keep him on that track. But, I mean, let me ask you this. Does Fury fight AJ first, or does he fight Dubois first?
You would hope AJ.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about, what do you think? What's the reality? Speculating.
You've got to wonder what Eddie Hearn really wants, because deep down, does he think, you know what, like, Tyson Fury is going to school AJ, and then the paychecks coming in from AJ are going to be significantly lower because he's lost to Andy Ruiz.
And he has a lifetime contract with him, doesn't he?
Yeah. So you do wonder if deep down he says one thing to the public, but behind closed doors, he knows, like, I need to cream as much money as I can from AJ before, you know, he gets, you know, beaten by Tyson Fury. So it's, you know, I could see that maybe, you know, if Daniel Dubois keeps winning and depending on what happens with this injury, you know, he makes himself, you know, mandatory for the WBA, which he probably already is because he's got a version of the heavyweight title. And then, you know, Fury and Dubois is going to be easy to make. They're both under the, you know, Queensberry / Frank Warren banner. And it's double dipping for Uncle Frank.
Oh, yeah, of course. You know, all promoters of
PBC special.
Well, yeah, but not just all of them. Golden Boy, Top Rank, they all do it. You know, they're all, I mean, from a business standpoint, that's how you sustain. You get the whole pot, you know? I mean, if you have fighters under the same umbrella, they're like, oh, this is great. You know, Errol Spence, Sean Porter, you know, Danny Garcia and stuff. I mean, those are great matchups. And they were all under the PBC banner. So, you know, all one pot. But when you start fighting, when you fought all those guys under your umbrella, and now the only guys that are legitimately left as competitors in your weight class are with other promoters, and you're still fighting these other names who, like, nobody wants to see you fight, that's when it becomes a problem for people. Most of the time. But yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see how Frank Warren and especially Frank Warren and Queensberry are thinking in terms of Dubois. You know, are they going to try to maneuver him into a fight with Fury before a potential AJ fight, before a potential Usyk fight? You know, I would think they're going to try as hard as they can to do that, you know, because it's like you said, if Fury fights AJ or if he fights Usyk, even though he'd be the favorite going into both of those, most likely, especially against AJ, let's just say he loses. And then there's a rematch and he loses that too. Or for some reason, he just loses the title. He loses that championship leverage. Well, then Top Rank and Queensberry are going to have to maneuver Dubois. Then they're going to have to share the pot and have one of the fighters cross the street to fight the competitor. There's a risk there. Obviously, Fury, you have a lot of confidence in the guy, but that's how the game works. I honestly think, well, I don't know. I think there's a 60% chance that Dubois gets a shot at Fury before AJ does. Actually, you know what? I don't know. I want to say AJ and Usyk, but I feel like Fury wants to go for it with the undisputed, but he also knows there's more money in an AJ fight, so I'm not sure. That's a hard one. I think Dubois gets a shot at least. Dubois gets a shot at least before one of them, before AJ or Usyk. I'm fairly certain about that. What do you think?
What do you think is the bigger pot? The Saudi Arabia money for Fury Usyk or the Fury AJ pot?
Fury AJ pot in the UK?
Either or.
Oh, Fury AJ in Saudi Arabia?
Is bigger than an undisputed fight?
Yes, I think so. Because they're more famous. I mean, look at it. That's how it works. We have been like that for years. Look at Mayweather McGregor. There was no titles on the line, but they're both so popular that they sold 4 million pay-per-views or whatever they reported. It was a huge event. They went to like 6 different cities all over the world, and like 20,000 people showed up at each press conference. No, yeah, I definitely AJ Fury would be the bigger box office. Undisputed history, competitiveness, Usyk Fury. But bang for your buck, it's still going to be AJ Fury, whether it's in the UK or Saudi Arabia, the Middle East somewhere, Dubai or, wherever. But I don't know. I'm really interested to see if Fury goes against AJ first or he goes for Usyk first. I'm really interested to see, because he could say one thing, it's like, oh no, I want it disputed, but then he'd be like, well, I want to get paid, and this is a bigger box office. They're going to do all this media, both of them, and this and that. Like, I mean, they're going to be all over the media in the UK if he fights AJ. They're both going to be doing media. It's going to be huge. They're going to be on like the big morning shows. I mean, they'd be stupid not to, because they're both big heavyweight personalities. So I don't know, but I know we were talking about Dubois, but let's see how because he's what, 27? He's a young guy, right? So I mean, he still has time, but I don't know. Maybe luckily he won. He dug down, he won, but I don't know. Maybe the Joyce fight did take a lot out of him that we can't really see. You never know. Moving on. From Glendale, Arizona on DAZN, Juan Francisco Estrada, El Gallo, gets the majority decision win over Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez. And this was for the WBC Super Flyweight title. I mean, these guys it always seems like you put them in together, it's the same. I don't want to say same exact fight, like it's boring, but like, it's like, it's just one of those trilogy fights or fights like you always put the fighters together and it's always really close and it's always very, very close rounds. Like maybe Pacquiao Marquez. I know Pacquiao won a majority of the fights, but all those fights were all close. They were competitive. Can we say the same thing for this trilogy?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great fight. I know Dan Canobio posted that I think he threw like 1,000 less punches in this one, which you could see, there was a little bit less thrown. You could see that, Chocolatito looked a little bit slower. I know that he said he did take the first couple of rounds to try to assess what was coming from Estrada, which was probably the wrong idea, because you could see that he kind of started a little bit behind and was trying to make up the ground. And I thought Estrada did well to really close the show, especially in the last round. I thought he kind of like rubber stamped it in that last round. It was still a great fight, though. I think I posted on Twitter, give me a fourth, give me a fifth, just keep them coming. It's they're just great fight. They're just, like you said, they're just two fighters that are just made for each other. And if Roman Gonzalez wants it again, then do it. It's we all love it. We all want to see it. I don't think anybody said anything remote compared to what we said about Fury-Chisora, but we don't want to see it. This was something like, just keep them coming because sooner or later, Gonzalez is going to be retired, and then Estrada can go and fight, some of the other bigger names in the super flyweight division. But it was a great fight. But I thought the right person got the nod on the night.
You know what? I know I watched it after the fact, and I already know who won and everything, but I kind of agree with the draw scorecard that was on there. I do. I was just like, you know what? I kind of thought of the draw, but I can kind of agree with you in terms of like, I'm not really mad that they gave it to Estrada. I could see that, but from my personal standpoint, I think it was a draw. But like we just talked about, they're just made for each other. Do we see another fourth? It's possible. It's possible. So Estrada's won 2 out of the 3, right?
Yeah.
We could see a fourth. I mean, Pacquiao Marquez, there was 4.
I mean, because especially if Roman Gonzalez manages to, to sneak the fourth, and then we've got ourselves a fifth, right?
Yeah. There's 5 fights.
Yeah, there'd be 2-2, but every now and again in those generations of fighters, you just get 2 people that are just made for each other, and the fights are like, super, super close every single time. And, I think any of those fights are, if you've got a friend that's, interested in becoming a boxing fan, you could sit down and get in front of any of those fights, any of the trilogies, and it's a perfect fight to, for someone to watch.
So Estrada, you got Eddie Hearn, who has Bam Rodriguez, Joshua Franco under the Matchroom umbrella. Estrada fights who next? I know we have Julio Cesar Martinez on the co-feature, which we'll talk about in a second, but who's most likely next in line here? Franco? Golden Boy?
Well, Franco's fighting, isn't he, on New Year's Eve?
I mean, they're on the same schedule, both fight in December.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to think. I mean, I would like to see him in there with Joshua Franco if Franco wins, or that Daniel Fernandez Martinez. I think he's a good fighter, undefeated. He just beaten Joe Ancajas twice. That'd be a good fight, Argentina against Mexico as well.
I think Golden Boy is definitely going to beat the drum. If Franco wins on New Year's Eve, they're definitely going to beat the drum for Estrada. I think they're going to try hard. Because Franco has what, the WBA? What does he have right now?
He has the WBA.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And if he wins on New Year's Eve, I mean, it'd be smart for Golden Boy. They're both there. They're all under the DAZN banner. Beat the drum for Estrada. Unification fight, WBC, WBA. And if Franco wins, Golden Boy has a unified champ.
And if Franco wins, Franco will be the WBA and WBO. So
because at the end of the month it's for the WBO?
It's for he's fighting Kazuto Ioka.
I didn't know it was for the WBO. Holy crap!
Yeah, it's for both, for the WBA and the WBO.
Ooh,
so whoever wins that, get them in with Estrada.
Who has the IBF?
The guy I just said that. What was his name? Daniel Roman Martinez, is it?
Oh, that's right. He does.
Fernando
Martinez.
Yeah, who beat Ancajas. So those 4 have all the belts in that division.
You know what? Yeah, I could see it. I can see De La Hoya and Golden Boy. If Franco wins, unifies the titles, they beat the drum for Estrada. They fight Estrada, and then the winner fights Fernando Martinez. I could see it. I could see
I'm
it.
sure Fernando Martinez probably has options with the PBC, which will probably make it
Oh yeah,
harder for
but
him to get the fights.
but if Franco, hypothetically, or Estrada, either or, can have 3 out of the 4 belts under one, then they're gonna have a lot of leverage. Like, well, Fernando Martinez has the only other belt, but they don't want to fight me, or their promoter won't let me fight them. So, and it's gonna look really bad. It's like, well, you have the only belt. I have all the other ones. Who else are you gonna fight? You know? Yeah, that's definitely interesting. But Chocolatito Gonzalez, was there any? Did he say anything in the post fight interviews about retiring or anything like that?
Said he was going to go away, talk to his family, take some time, and then decide what he was going to do going forward.
I think he's still gonna come back.
I mean, I hope so, because I didn't think he looked a little bit off the pace that night, but he didn't get massively beaten up in that fight. He is obviously quite old for somebody in the super flyweight division. He's a veteran of 55 fights. But selfishly, no, I want him to stay.
Well, yeah, I think he stays. But like you said, 55 fights, a lot of mileage on that tank. There is. But do we see the 4th fight next year?
I think they should turn around and do it right now, just because of the age of both of them.
No, you're right, but I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen right away. I agree. I think they should just turn around and 4 or 5 months from now fight again. But if Franco fights in the same month, 3.5 weeks or whatever, separated from Estrada, and he wins, Golden Boy is going to beat the drum and convince the zone, hey, Estrada versus Franco, his belt, all belts on the line, besides the IBF, of course. And they'll put that fight, Texas maybe? Or what do you think? I think he would put it in Texas. Franco's from Texas, isn't he?
Yeah, he's from San Antonio, I believe.
Yeah, I could see that in fight in Texas. Both Mexican-American versus a Mexican. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Probably just depends on the money, doesn't it? Where does the money, especially if you're Estrada and Gonzalez, they'll probably sit there and say, okay, like, what are my options? Do I want to chase belts and unify or undisputed? Or do I want to just try to get some of the biggest fights for the biggest money towards the end of my career?
Yeah, that's true. Well, we will see. And also in the co-feature, as I mentioned earlier, Julio Cesar Martinez gets the majority decision win over Samuel Carmona. This was for the WBC Flyweight World title. Majority decision. What do you think about that?
I thought this was probably like a look into the performance that Martinez is going to have to put up against if he fights Sonny Edwards. Because Sonny Edwards moves a lot, but I think he's a hell of a lot better fighter than Carmona, who just didn't really want to engage, it seems, at times. But Sonny Edwards is going to move, he's going to pot shot, he's going to keep you twisting and turning and not let someone like Martinez, get his feet set, because he really just kind of walks you down, doesn't he, and tries to beat you up, beat you into a pull. Kind of like he's a flyweight Joe Joyce, essentially.
That's a crazy comparison. It's a very interesting comparison.
Yeah, I didn't think it was a good performance from Martinez.
Maybe
just because Carmona was so negative, it was hard, I think, for Martinez to do anything just because of the clash of styles.
Right.
Martinez needs someone in front of him, and that's why I say he's a small version of Joe Joyce, because he takes a lot of shots to land a lot of shots, because he's very heavy-handed and really just relies on that. And he's shown at times, like when he fought Gonzalez, people that kind of move and put combinations together and don't just stand straight forward right in front of him. He does struggle with that.
Julio Cesar Martinez with Eddie Hearn. He wins this close fight. Are we going to see him and Bam next? 112 pounds. I mean, Bam did move back down to 112, right?
Correct. Yeah. I would be happy with either Bam or, Sonny Edwards. It was spoken about afterwards. Unfortunately, he's obviously a Frank Warren. Well, no, I don't think he's with anybody now. He was MTK. He may be with Probellum. So maybe it'd be a little bit easier to make. I know Sonny Edwards has opened to, trying to get the fight made. It looked like it was going to be made before and fell through for some unknown reason. But I would be happy with either Bam Rodriguez or the Sonny Edwards fight. I think both of them would be, really good.
Bam Rodriguez, Martinez in Texas. Franco, hypothetically, if he wins, Estrada as a co-main, or do each of these fights deserve the main event in their own respective card?
That's a good question. I mean, I do sometimes like it when they have them on the same card, because then you can kind of see what's going to happen in the future. You've got, like a co-main and a main, and you're like, okay, whoever wins this one's going to fight the winner of the main event. And then, if they can, if they're both in good health, they can face off afterwards, which is always good. It's a good way to sell the fight. I mean, I obviously selfishly like them in Southern California, just due to, Martinez training with, Reynoso, Bam Rodriguez obviously training with, Robert Garcia in Riverside. So, and it's a perfect fight for the old stubble, right? War grounds.
The war grounds, yeah. Carson, California. That's true. That's true. Either way, 112 to 115. There's a lot of players right now. There's a lot of players. And, and Bam Rodriguez has already shown that he belongs at 115, but he moved back down because he said he still hasn't finished business, but also because his brother, half-brother, Joshua Franco, has a title at 115. He wants to, I'm assuming you would think, right? He wants to give him a chance to shine in that division, and then Bam Rodriguez is going to go and take over 112, and then, kind of go from there. So either way, 112 to 115 right now. Got some excellent competition. Excellent. Moving on to fight previews. This upcoming Saturday, the 10th of December, from the First Direct Arena in Leeds on DAZN. Josh Warrington, 31-1-1, and goes up against Luis Alberto Lopez for the IBF Featherweight World Championship. What are we looking at here? What's your prediction?
Could be a trickier fight than people think. Luis Alberto Lopez, we kind of know him from some of the smaller shows in California and in Mexico. Not massively well known, I would say, around the world. I'm sure that our British listeners and watchers of boxing probably don't have no idea who he is. But he is a tricky little customer. I could see Josh Warrington, if he's on form, taking him out late rounds, maybe a points decision win in his hometown of Leeds. And then hopefully we could get some, bigger fights for Josh. Now he's regained the IBF featherweight title. I think we all want to see him pardon me, in there with some bigger names as he draws towards the end of his career. Because the featherweight division, it does have, still a lot of good names, but they just haven't faced each other yet, which is kind of annoying for us because, Josh Warrington's been in there for a long time. Are we going to get the third fight with Lara? Because obviously the second fight was called off due to the
That's right. How we got Lara right there.
Yeah, it's an intriguing division. It really is an intriguing division, and I think we would rather see, Ray Vargas, Brandon Figueroa, Mark Magasayo, Lara, like we just touched on, Navarrete, Russell Jr., Isaac Dogbe, Lee
Russell
Wood,
Jr.
Dwight
Do you really want to include him?
But all those 10 people at the top of the division, I think we'd rather see Josh Warrington in with any of those, rather.
Well, yeah.
The unknown Luis Alberto Lopez.
No, yeah, of course.
Even the legend, Kiko Martinez.
Kiko Martinez is making a name for himself still. He's still keeping it going. You never know.
Mm-hmm. On the same night, and I haven't put it on this schedule because I didn't think the fight was that big, we have Mick Conlan. Mick Conlan fighting on a very small top rank card over in Ireland.
And this was his first fight since his loss, right?
I think there might have been one gimme.
Was there?
Yeah, he came back and he fought Miguel Mariaga.
Oh, that's right. Damn, Mariaga he's one of those guys too, like Jose Pedraza, just passed around, huh?
So I do wonder, are they going to try to put those two together? Conlan wins, Warrington wins, try and do some sort of British dust up because it'll be a a big crowd. Personally, I'd like to see him in there with those 10 people higher up in the division. I just said, but we'll see. We'll see.
Also on the card, Ebony Bridges gets the eighth win of her career over. She gets a win over Shannon O'Connell. This was for the IBF bantamweight title. I wonder how long Bridges' deal is with Matchroom. You know, I wonder if it's like a, because I'm assuming she's been renewed, right? Because he signed her 2 years ago, maybe
during COVID, I think.
During COVID, she's had quite a few fights under the Matchroom banner, and I'm sure he's renewed it. You know, signs her for a couple fights. You know, hits the threshold, and he's like, "Oh, okay, we can resign you." You know, signed her for another couple more fights or extended. Who knows?
This is an interesting one because you've got Ebony Bridges from Australia, Shannon O'Connell from Australia, and they're fighting in Leeds. And I know obviously like Ebony Bridges kind of did that because she kind of claimed that she was a Leeds fan, trying to jump on the, you know, the legions of football fans. And, you know, look what it did to Josh Warrington. You know, he became, you know, super popular, sells a lot of tickets, you know, thanks to that. But it's just funny that they have like a Matchroom Australia, which they're trying to start. And, you know, why not put this fight over in, you know, somewhere in Australia, you know, Bridges against Shannon O'Connell. So
maybe a rematch later down the road.
Yeah, you know, depending on what happens in this one. Yeah, Bridges, if she wins, it's going to be a good fight though. You know, Shannon O'Connell obviously a hell of a lot more experienced of 30 fights. You know, Bridges.
Oh, it is. I don't know why I said that she got the win. I was wondering why there was no other info. I was like, wait a minute. Yeah.
I just assumed that you just, because we went from reviews to previews, you just had a little head start there. Interesting because, you know, Shannon's got 30 fights. Bridges has obviously only had 9, and Bridges goes in as the champion. So she does seem to be, I think, improving like every time we've seen her. And Ebony seems to just be.
No, she does seem like it. Yeah.
Yeah, she's super game as well, which is obviously just makes all the fights, you know, really, really good. I think I'm right in saying I think Shannon Courtney's on the undercard of this fight, coming back from her injury. So maybe they're going to try to, you know, position, you know, Ebony Bridges against Shannon Courtney for the rematch later down the line, due to the fact they're both, you know, fairly big social media personalities.
Yeah, definitely. And also this Saturday from Omaha, Nebraska, Terrence Crawford, 30-0, returns under a new promoter and broadcaster, BLK Prime, as he goes up against David Avanesian for the WBO welterweight title that Crawford holds. This is a pay-per-view fight. What's the price point that's been floated or that's been reported?
60.
$59.99.
$60,
so $60. And Crawford, I think, has said that they're paying him $10 million.
Guarantee of $10 million, yeah.
So who's putting up this money, Mike?
Daniel Kinahan.
That seems reasonable to think, right? I mean, what else?
He was with MTK.
Exactly. He's with MTK until it dissolved. You know, like it just makes sense. You know, the Prograis Zepeda, who put up that money. People think MTK Kinahan was in the shadows because Prograis was pro bellum. Is this the same? You know, Crawford was MTK, advised by them. If he's getting paid $10 million by a brand new, you know, it's kind of like a new Triller, or at least a semi-Triller trying to penetrate the boxing game. And if he really is getting paid $10 million, they're not going to make that money back at all.
I think Eddie Hearn said this week when he did the interviews that he doesn't think the fight will sell 10,000 pay-per-views.
No, I think it'll sell. No, I think he's just saying that. You know how he is. He's, you know, his words get people riled up. He'll say certain things. He's a promoter. But
so if my math is right, for $60, just to cover Crawford's 10 million purse, they'll have to do 166,666 pay-per-views.
Yeah, I think they do.
So say 200,000 if you include everyone else.
I think they do, right? 30. 30,000.
And then
are we even going to get the report? That's the thing. Like,
no, we won't. Will we?
We won't, unless it really eclipses. Unless, I don't think we're going to get the report. Because even if we get reports, sometimes like these numbers are floated to reporters, and we're like, can we really believe it?
And it's a one fight card. If you look at the undercard, it's a lot of Crawford's friends who were with him on the Top Rank shows, like Steve Nelson and people like that. Are people in his stable, but they're not anybody that's really going to draw attention, to the card. I'm surprised he didn't, try to actually stick on something on there like a YouTuber, just to bring in some like more eyes to it. Because, and I understand you do get, like in the business world, you get like lost leaders where like, they bring in somebody on the money, knowing that it's going to lose money, but it's going to, bring attention to the card, kind of like what Triller did when he did like, Mike Tyson and all those sorts of things. And
I would love to know if like Eddie Hearn or not Top Rank, but like Eddie Hearn especially Eddie Hearn. I don't know if he said it in interviews or not, but if he like even approached Crawford to try to make a deal with him, because he obviously said that Crawford just, the money that he was demanding or had been paid just wasn't worth the risk in terms of putting his fight like on any pay-per-view or anything, because it's like hard to make that money back. But I wonder if Eddie...
I watched an interview with a couple of interviews with him this morning, and I don't think he mentioned about whether he reached out to him, but he said that Crawford, the problem you have with him is exactly as you said, like he believes that he's worth X amount of money. But in terms of what he can bring in on, pay-per-views and gate receipts and stuff like that, it doesn't add up. And unfortunately, I think because he's been getting that sort of money and, costing Top Rank, essentially every time he fought.
Obviously he's an excellent fighter, pound for pound, but the stars aligned for him in terms of, if you look at it from a silver lining perspective, that all the best welterweights were on the other side of the street with PBC Al Heyman, and they were getting paid, handsomely as well. So Top Rank had the only other guy who was the best in the world in that division, from the outside looking in. But in order to keep him happy, where he doesn't let his contract run out or doesn't make a fuss, they had to pay him. I mean, you really think that if all the welterweights were at one side of the street like that or whatever, and they weren't making the money that they were making, or Al Heyman wasn't paying them what they were reportedly making, you really think that Top Rank would be paying Crawford what he was making? No.
And
but
I'm sure
they had to compete.
Yeah, and I'm sure that he was hoping that, later down the line, he can make some of those big fights with another welterweight from PBC and hopefully, gather some of that money back in a unification or an undisputed type fight. And it didn't seem to happen. And what did Bob say? He could have bought a very nice house in Southern California for the price of the money that he lost paying Crawford.
Yeah,
you can't like you said, you can't take anything away from him. If I was him and BLK Prime offered me $10 million to fight David Avanesyan,
I hope that's true. I hope he's not lying about that.
Everybody would bite their hands off to do that.
Yeah, I really hope he's not lying about that, because that's insane.
We got Broner. What was did Broner sign? A 3-fight deal with BLK Prime for $10 million, right? 3 fights.
They should have put him on the undercard as a co-feature?
Yeah.
It would have helped the card sell.
I'll watch that. I'll watch Broner.
But then they would. I mean, but they're probably going to pay Broner what, 3 to 5?
I think it was a 3-fight deal for $10 million. So like, what's that? 3.3 million a fight.
That's ridiculous for somebody like Broner.
Yeah, he'll sell though. He'll sell.
No, yeah, he sells, but like, it's just like, man, that's wild. That's wild. Do we see? Just give me a yes or no. Do we see Spence Crawford within the next 6 months?
After what Crawford said in those recent videos and the stuff that he posted on Twitter, I don't think we'll ever see it.
Wow, really?
Yeah, just he doesn't seem to be bothered.
I mean, Mayweather and Pacquiao went back and forth like that for years too, and they both each said that it's not going to happen, and like, oh no, like, and it ended up happening because it was just. But there was a lot of money on that table, though.
Yeah, it's different sort of Kettle of
So it
fish
was
is the
different.
same.
It was different from a financial standpoint. Over here, it hasn't crossed. It's not close to that threshold.
They're not close in terms of marketability, are they?
Right. So
Crawford's his own worst enemy in terms of pay-per-views and stuff like that. He just think maybe talent alone is going to sell, where unfortunately it doesn't. You know, being a character, being funny, having, you know, a gimmick or something like that is what sells to the fans. And
I mean, you need to sell. I mean, look
yeah,
at
and he doesn't, and he doesn't seem bothered by that.
look at if you want to believe all the reported pay-per-view numbers over the years for Spence's fights, his highest grossing one was the Mikey Garcia fight.
What was that?
I think reportedly, if I remember, it was like in the threes.
So it's probably in our reality, probably the twos or 250.
Well, it could have been, but like if you look at all the floated numbers over the years over his pay-per-view fights,
and that's
the highest.
That's not Spence. That's Mikey Garcia. That's the Mexican.
Exactly. Look, I'm sure Spence had a lot to do with it. He's an excellent fighter, and I'm back and forth, but maybe I'll change my mind after Saturday. But I still think Spence beats Crawford. You know, if you had to twist my arm and ask me, I still think Spence beats Crawford. But you know, how many pay-per-view? I mean, it's just like, you know, how many pay-per-view buys did Mikey Garcia sell on his own? You know, how many people tune in because of him?
Well, a lot more than Spence.
So, I mean, and he hasn't come close to that number ever since.
No, they picked Mikey for a reason.
Yeah, you know, and he made a ton of money, and they sold a lot, and they give the credit to Spence, like, oh well, Spence has sold these pay-per-view buys and blah blah blah. Like, well, yeah, but you know, you kind of have to sustain that pattern going forward after that.
Well, yeah, it'd be like me or you fighting Mayweather, and then saying, "Oh, Mike Shepard sold 750,000 buys."
It's like we take the credit. It's just like, look at you. Spence does deserve some type of credit, but it's like, you know, I know the pay-per-view market has changed. We talked about piracy and all that stuff, which is true, but you know, his pay-per-view numbers reportedly have declined since then. I mean, pay-per-view has been hard for anybody. It really has. And even, you know, if you're not named Canelo or AJ, whether it's AJ in the UK or Canelo over here, you know, you're not a sure bet. You're not a sure bet. You know, I mean, Canelo's selling 600,000 to 800,000, 500,000, 600. That's a lot, but you know, they got to look at, okay, well, we're paying Canelo $50 million, you know, so we could sell this much, and it's a lot, but we're not making a profit. So you know, it's a simple rule of business. You know, expenses is your profit, your potential profit going to outweigh your expenses. You know, boxing is a hard sport, man. It's not just a hard sport in the ring; it's a hard sport behind the scenes too, which is ridiculous. Also, this upcoming Saturday from Madison Square Garden, the theater, right? This is the smaller venue.
Yep.
In New York City on ESPN regular, the regular channel. Teofimo Lopez returns as he goes up against Sandor Martin, who ironically got an upset win against Mikey Garcia. That was his biggest win to date. And this is for the WBO International Super Lightweight title. I know people are saying that this is a great matchup and it's better than people think.
No.
I really don't think so. I think when he beat Mikey, I think that was the high point for him. I don't know if you remember I was at this fight in Anaheim, California at the Honda Center when Robert the Ghost Guerrero, it was a PBC fight, but literally from Argentina. He was a literal taxi cab driver in Argentina, David Peralta. And Peralta beat him. I think he stopped him. And I remember Peralta came to the side, to the media, to us. We were all around him asking questions. And then, who's the guy from, is it Zanfer? What's his name? Samson? I'm sorry, Samson.
Samson Lekowitz?
Yes, Samson Boxing. That was his manager at the time, or his promoter or something. And I remember he was right there with him, translating for him. And he was all excited. And, you know, they were like, oh, the biggest win of his career. He said, oh, yeah, he's definitely coming back and going to get big fights. I think the next fight he had a couple months later was somewhere in Argentina, and he lost. So you never heard from him again. I just think Martinez is the same one-hit wonder, and I mean, unless Teofimo just absolutely shits the bed, I don't think it's going to be competitive at all. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with what you said. You've got to put it into comparison when you look at, okay, Sandor Martin beat Mikey Garcia. What did Mikey Garcia do after that? Retired.
Right.
The fight was at a catch weight. It was supposed to be a warm-up fight for Mikey Garcia because Mikey was they were hoping to position him into a fight in Qatar or Saudi Arabia against Manny Pacquiao.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
So Mikey came in. The fight ended up being at a catch weight because Mikey had what did it? I think it was supposed to be like 140, and then I think they changed it to like 144 because Mikey was struggling to get down, and then he beat him on I think it ended up being a majority decision, and then what's Sandor Martin done since then? He's had we're looking at 42 fights, and Mikey Garcia is the only name that we can all pretty much name off the top of our head of someone that he's faced.
Right.
Yeah, I think it would be easy work for Teofimo Lopez, and I definitely do not agree with the people that say that he's actually a harder fight than Pedraza. I think Pedraza's 1,000 times better than Sandor Martin. I think if they fought each other, I think Pedraza would beat him.
You think so?
I think Pedraza would beat Sandor Martin, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I don't know why I was thinking Lopez.
But it'd be interesting to see what Lopez does afterwards. Is he gonna who's he gonna call out? Like, are we looking at some type of bigger fight? Because this is one of the fights that WBC convention mandated.
Yeah, I think you're right. That their convention wasn't it in Mexico or something?
Yeah, the convention. Yeah. So if he wins this, he fights Regis Prograis. Technically, right?
Supposedly. But I honestly think the top rank, especially because their working relationship with MTK over the last couple of years, I think they're going to try to stay away as much as possible from any type of connection with that, just because they don't want to get caught in the crossfire. Probellum.
Connection
Prograis.
Okay, with the Probellum. Yeah.
So I wouldn't see. And Prograis is dangerous. I think Prograis beats Lopez. So yeah, I don't see. I see Lopez getting one more introduction fight to 140. A little bit obviously better than Sandor Martin, but not the elite like Jose Ramirez and those guys. I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised if he goes from here to like a Josh Taylor, Jose Ramirez. I mean, he can go to Jose Pedraza, right? I mean, this was supposed to be Jose Pedraza, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Arnold Barboza.
Yeah. You know what? I can see Arnold Barboza next. I honestly wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind that. Him and against Arnold Barboza, they're both under the top rank. Why not? I mean, Rich, who's the manager? Rich Morgan.
Mm-hmm.
He's been beating the drum for that. I can see it.
Who wins that?
Well, after Barboza's last performance, I like that matchup. I do. Mm-hmm. I do. I mean, if Barboza fights, is he going to fight before a possible Teofimo fight next year? I don't know. But I still like that matchup. I think that's an intriguing matchup. They're both young guys. Barboza's, almost 30-0?
Yeah, 27-0.
Yeah, he's close to it. Teofimo's been unified champ at 135 pounds. Got a big personality. But, yeah, I don't know. I like that matchup. I think that's a great matchup. And I wouldn't know who to pick. Like, I would still have to see them, give me a game time decision on that to have a pick. But I like that matchup. If he doesn't fight Jose Ramirez, Josh Taylor, any of those guys, the bigger names, Barboza. Why not? They both got to be tested at that weight class, especially Barboza. Barboza hasn't got a chance after almost 30 fights to really get that significant profiled fight, right? So we will see. Moving on, news and notes section of this week's episode of The Last Round. This is very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. So the double CEOs, the co-CEOs of the WWE, Stephanie McMahon, the daughter of Vince McMahon, and Nick Khan, who's a former sports agent and sports media agent. He was a sports agent for MMA's journalist, reporter, Ariel Helwani, other people. He brokered, I think, the deal with ESPN for Top Rank. I think he was like the guy who made that deal happen. So he's been involved in a lot of big things in sports, especially on the fight game. So both of them right now, Stephanie McMahon and Nick Khan, are both co-CEOs of the WWE at the moment. And they have both expressed interest in potentially entering the sport of boxing. They were speaking with a analyst for Wells Fargo.
See, it says Wells Fargo. I don't know whether that's a keying mistake or something like that, but
I don't know, something like that. I think they were speaking last week at a conference in Las Vegas. They said pretty much, we're summarizing here, but in the context of acquisition, they both talked about the potential opportunities in boxing. Stephanie McMahon pointed out how there are multiple boxing championships that could be rolled up into one, like how, in her description, Vince McMahon, her dad, consolidated wrestling in the 1980s. Her counterpart, Nick Khan, said most sports stars start before the mid 1980s were individual sports stars like boxers and tennis players, and pointed to an opportunity with boxing. He added that boxing, as well as horse racing, were the most popular sports along with baseball in the 1950s. Nick Khan said that with the rise of sports betting, there's an opportunity for WWE seemingly in boxing and, if this is correct, and horse racing. The latter, he noted, is only popular up to 3 times a year. Talking about horse racing, I'm assuming, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're touching on that. I think it's very interesting because a lot of the MMA fans, UFC fans, overlap with professional wrestling fans because you see Ronda Rousey crossover. They've been trying to get Conor McGregor for a while. Brock Lesnar, UFC. I think Brock Lesnar did a lot when he crossed over to the UFC from the WWE, and then he crossed back. I think he brought over a lot of fans, and a lot of people paid attention because of that. So I think they're looking at boxing as a potential UFC. They see how successful the UFC is. They're like, well, boxing has all these different promoters. If we just gobble them all up, we can be the sole player. Just like that, just like she said, Stephanie McMahon said, just like her dad Vince McMahon did. He gobbled up all the smaller promoters and he became the one global titan. How likely? I mean, you know what? If anybody can do it, it's them. They're a publicly traded billion-dollar company. Bob Arum and Top Rank said that they're open to listening to offers. So like you never know. I could see it. I could see that. They would give it a shot. But would Golden Boy, would Al Heyman, would they sell? What do you think? Would Eddie Hearn sell? I don't think Eddie Hearn would sell.
I don't think Eddie Hearn would sell. I think, Top Rank maybe because of the age of Bob Arum, and then I think PBC might do with all the rumors about their
I think that's their best bet is PBC and Top Rank.
Yeah, their contracts coming towards the end, and then you just got to look at the model of the UFC. Obviously, it'd be a huge outlay to purchase Top Rank, Golden Boy, Matchroom, Frank Warren, all those, but look how much money the UFC generates.
Oh, yeah. They were sold, to Endeavor, whoever it was, for almost $5 billion? That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. And I'm sure they see that. They're like, whoa, I mean, and this whole boxing thing. But the fighters are obviously going to fight back against that. The fighters all making the money, like, they're going to be like, oh, well, because their purse they're gonna go down. They're definitely gonna go down. So what's gonna happen? Are a lot of these fighters gonna go with Eddie Hearn? Like, oh, well, Eddie Hearn, are you gonna pay me? We'll go with you. We won't sign with WWE. It's gonna be interesting, but the fact that they've expressed that and they kind of threw that out into the world like that, that's very telling because it's true. Her dad, Vince McMahon, did that with all the smaller wrestling promotions and then just gobbled them all up and became one. And I would think they have the funds, right?
Join forces with Dana White.
You never know. Dana White has been wanting to get into the boxing business, and if they partner up with him, and he's like, okay. He's always liked Vince McMahon and stuff. I know he's not there anymore, but a lot of people still think he's in the shadows. But yeah, that's very, very interesting, and I'm definitely a story I'm going to keep an eye on because let's see what happens. I'm sure Top Rank and Bob Arum, all them are listening. Like, hey, what do you think? They have a connection with Nick Khan. Maybe they've had conversations already. You never know. I could see Bob Arum doing it. I can see Top Rank being the first ones to do it. Bob Arum's like, he's like, I'm over it. He's like, we'll sell it. They're gonna give us a lot of money. We had a good run. Boom. Here's our entire stable and everything. I could see it. Oof. That's pretty big news that people are kind of overlooking. I think that's very, very big news. But I don't know. But once again, guys, we appreciate you guys listening to this week's episode of The Last Round, episode 202. 202. Please remember we have merchandise and all that stuff available, sweatshirts, shirts. Get your sweatshirts now. It's cold out there, so go and check it out at Fit Warrior Brand. It's on our link tree on our social media pages and all that. Go check it out and support us and help us out with a kickback like that. But before we completely sign off, again, Mike, go ahead and let them know where they can find us and follow us.
We are at the Last Round 12 on Instagram and Twitter. Be sure to join us next week. We'll be previewing the Dan Aziz, Rocky Fielding, and Michelle Rivera against Frank Martin. And then the week after that,
is it Michelle Rivera or is it Michael Rivera?
Michelle Rivera, I think.
Are you sure?
Michel. No,
I think it's Michael.
Michael Rivera, then we'll go with.
I think it is Michael.
The Showtime show.
The Showtime show. Steven Espinoza, he is back. So once again, guys, we appreciate it. There was one thing I missed. Oh man, I forgot. I just had something I was going to mention. I forgot what it was. I'm sure I'll remember once we hit stop here. But whatever. But once again, for my co-host Michael Shepard, I'm Danny Z. This is The Last Round.
Thanks for supporting and listening to the show. Follow us at The Last Round 12 on social media. Rate, review, and subscribe. This is The Last Round